Anyway, okay, so I think this will be the last video in the series for, you know, the regions of Italy and the earliest decks. Now, the earliest deck I have from the Piedmont region is like 1830. It's not that early. I'm sure they had decks prior to 1830 that I just don't have. Okay, so I can only share with you what I have. Because the boxes, there's too many to keep on the table, I'm going to show you the boxes as I tell you the name. The earliest one that's dated is the Vernano. And you can see some of the characteristics already on the box of the Fool. We have the kind of blousy, you know, kind of pantaloons. We have an accordion style kind of neck piece. And for the first time in tarot history, we have a butterfly in the Fool card. So this is my earliest that I happen to have example of the Piedmontese tradition. The next one I have is a Lando. And this one, I think I mentioned, was published by Giordano Berti. The second example that I have, 1830, is the Lando, also published by Giordano Berti. And it has a different look altogether. We have what looks very much like a TDM style. The next one I have is a Piedmont, it's just called Piedmontese Tarot. And it's dated 1865. I got this, I think I got this either at, I think I got this at Make Playing Cards. I don't remember. Anarchy-games.com. And I did buy it on Make Playing Cards. They have a date of 1865, and on the back of the box, this deck is based on the Piedmontese Tarot deck published in Genoa, Italy in 1865 by F.F. Solesio. So we have, didn't we have a Solesio Minchiati? I wonder if it, maybe the same family name or something. An original lithograph printed copy of this deck is held in the collection of the National Library in France. The artwork for these cards has been edited from the original public domain images for Anarchy Games by Robert L. Lynch. So that's the next one, and I said this is 1865. Then I have the Perrin. This one's also published by Giordano Berti, 1865, which again has a completely, it's a more sophisticated, this is a fun deck. I've showcased this many times. It's a cool deck. And then I'm not sure if this is a Piedmont deck, but I have it out to look at, to compare it. It's the Tarocchi Piacentini. Now I think Piacenza is a village or a town or a city. It's described, when I looked it up, as in the crossroads between Bologna, Lombardy, Turin, which Turin would be in the Piedmont. So I don't know if we could rightly say, oh, this is a Piedmontese style, but it certainly might be influenced, you know, because it's in that kind of area. Then I have where is it? A Modiano, modern day playing card, Tarocco Piedmontese, for if you want to play tarot in the modern age. We have this, and this one is double-sided or double-ended, which is how they evolved, what they became. And then I have a fun one, Il Tarocco Bizarro by Franco Bruna. And I've showcased this deck a few times. And although it's a modern day deck, the gentleman was born in 35. He recently, passed away. I'm not sure when when he published this deck. I'm not sure, because I don't recall ever seeing dates for when it was published. Well, yeah, I don't even see it in the booklet or anything when this deck was published. I just have a bill here, but it doesn't tell me anyway. But I'm guessing like 70s, 80s, 90s, something like that. I don't know, but it's modern. But it's based on the Piedmontese style, so I thought that might be fun. And, just for fun, let me just right now pull the earliest card Fool And then this deck, which is the latest that I have probably, right? Beside the Modiano playing card. And, you know, you can see that at least in these two cards, Bruno was pretty true, right? To it's kind of like a satire maybe, or just a fun deck based on the Piedmontese. So we have a lot of the same ingredients. We have, you know, I guess these could be considered kind of like fluffy pants. We definitely have the accordion neck collar. We definitely have the butterfly. This guy's got a net. I don't know if that was a net, but maybe it was. Same kind of hat. So I think it's fun that from the earliest to the most recent that I have, besides, you know, modern day cards for playing, you know, I think it's kind of interesting that they're kind of true to form. So let me get these boxes out of here because they're getting on my nerves. And my nerves are already shot. And let me just showcase these decks. If it gets to be too much because there's too many of them, we'll figure it out. This may have to be a two-parter. I'm not sure if you're interested in seeing the pips. If you are, let me know, and then I'll do something for the pips. I don't think I focused on any of the pips except in the Milan, you know, the Sforza, the Visconti Sforza decks. I think I showed the pips for those, and I neglected to show the pips for the other decks. Nobody asked me for it, so kind of left it at that. Okay, so once again, from left to right, the Vernano 1830, the Lando 1832, just a deck simply called Piedmontese Tarot 1865, the Perrin also 1865, the Piacenti, let me make sure I got the name right. Piacentini, excuse me, the Piacentini is the latest, 1875. And then, of course, we have this one probably from the 90s or the 80s or something like that. I'm not sure when. Okay, so in these first two, kind of around the same time. Now, you see that Vernano's, even though it might be earlier than the Landos, you see how much more sophisticated it is, right? I mean, this was just a very sophisticated printing process. Maybe it was a lithograph, maybe something like that. So it's a bit more sophisticated. But let's see if we have similar things. Well, we kind of have like a hat that's got like a ball at the end. We don't have a butterfly, but I think that was a Vernano edition, or, you know, what's the word when somebody contributes something? And, you know, kind of blousy pants. In the Vernano, we don't have, you know, we have the butterfly in place of whatever creature we always see. But the posture's the same, that kind of thing, you know, everything, you know, but that's not unusual. Now, by the time we get to the Piedmontese Tarot deck of 1865, we do have blousy pants. They're styled a little bit, they're fashioned differently. They do have the cat or whatever. The hat's still a hat with a little ball at the end. And, you know, we see that across the board. He's walking in the opposite direction. In the Perrin, he's more like a court jester. Also 1865. So these two, same date. But again, like the Vernano, the Perrin is a more sophisticated printing, publishing, right, than those two. And then the Piacentini, 1875, kind of the same. I mean, I think we could say that these shorts are kind of blousy. Yeah, the collar isn't the Elizabethan. Kind of, we have a little frilly collar there. We don't have it here. He doesn't have a little, it's not one of those kind of sleeper caps. I forget what they're called. And then, of course, with this one. So this one seems more in keeping with the tradition of the Vernano. Okay, so here we have Il Bagato. Now here, like we've seen in some other decks, I think it recently was it with the Florentine. He's an artisan, right? I mean, these are tools of trade. You know, he's got a shoe form there. But he also has like a wand. Now here, he's become a bit of a charlatan with a, you know, but maybe not, I don't know. Could he still be borderline, like familiarity with the Marseille style? Because we saw cross-pollination. I mean, Italy developed the game of tarot, but, you know, Paris has a way of making things trendy, or, you know, so at some point, you know, it was reintroduced to Italy, or maybe the Lando, like one of the other decks I showcased the other day for the, that's, you know, was for import perhaps. Maybe they were an Italian outfit, right? But maybe they were exporting their deck to France, so they were making it palatable for the, I don't know. They either created it for themselves in a French fashion, or they were creating it for a French audience. I don't know which it is. And then in the Piedmontese, it's very similar to what he's got on the table, like eyeglasses. Is that what those might be on the table? Knife, a feather, ink, right? Maybe for writing. But it's interesting that they all have a baton of some type in their hand. The parent is an artisan, you know, and he's a cobbler. He's back to, if we look at the Vernano, the parent of 1865 versus the Vernano of 1830. He's a cobbler. He's smoking a pipe. And instead of a wand, he's got a hammer. That's a tool of his trade. And then, excuse me for coughing, the very, you know, modern deck. They took lots of liberties, obviously. But the lemniscate that I think the occultists identified in the hat of the, you know, early Italian decks and the early French decks, probably the early French decks, he incorporated it here as well, except that he used it as a lemniscate apart from the hat. Oh, and I forgot to show you the Modiano. Maybe I did show you the Modiano Fool with the butterfly and the little tassel on the head. And then here we have the Modiano Bachelor, or excuse me, Bagato rather, excuse me. And again, he has kind of the floppy hat kind of thing going on. He's holding a cup. Now, who else? Somebody else holds a cup. I have another deck where somebody's holding, oh, the Soprafino. Oh, let me pull that. Hold on. Well, I'm glad I didn't get too far. So with the Soprafino, we don't have a butterfly. We do have the dog. Now, I had associated this more with Milan, and I think I put it in the, you know, in my playlist for Milan. But maybe the artist had, maybe the artist was from the Piedmont region. Who knows? I think it's impossible to say, or maybe it's not impossible, but maybe it's just kind of, let me see. Where the heck is it? Lord have mercy. Hold on. If it had teeth, it would bite me. Okay. So here we have, oh, wow. Okay. So this is definitely, well, it's the Piacentini. So maybe it's from Turin, maybe it's not, but it seems an awful lot like this one. So that's either, you know, but whoever started the embellishment of a cup, because the ingredients are the same. Look at that, a pitcher with the same kind of flower motif. So this one was definitely influenced by this one, and this one came 10 years later. So this one came second, and they still have the you know, the things on the shoulders. Wow, same kind of apron. Cool. So I don't know who they were. If they were Piedmont or Milan, I don't know. But It seems very similar to the Soprafino, doesn't it? I'm going to leave the Soprafino out here, so we're going to add one more to the list. And the Soprafino is dated 1835. So the Soprafino comes around this time right here. Okay, so the Soprafino is with this era, and these three are all more recent to themselves. They're more, okay, I hope you understand what I'm saying. Okay, so here we go. Vernano, Lando, Soprafino. These two are very similar, you know, with the color of the scroll. Here we get a little, you know, is it a wingback of a chair? What is it, you know? But these two clearly seem very similar. Then we have the Piedmontese Tarot, 1865. Kind of the same thing with a scroll, but it's a different design. The Perrin. And then notice the Perrin, I don't think I mentioned it in the first two cards, but notice the Perrin has Arabic numbers now. The Piacentini. And then the Soprafino, which is, you know, around the same date here as these first three. So we have, yeah, there's differences, but very interesting. Oh my gosh, we're already 24 minutes in and I've only done 3 cards. Oh my gosh, okay. We have something different going on. Well, that explains why I got it wrong. Here's the... all right, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm getting confused already. Okay, so we have the Soprafino and the Vernano. We have the Piedmontese deck. They all three have a shield with an eagle. I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of similarity between them. The Perrin. The Piacentini. Which sort of similar to the Soprafino. I guess we have to acknowledge that. And then, oh, here was the female pope for the Bruna. Okay, so he took liberties here, but I think they all have a shield on her lap. That's where the shield is, on her lap. And the clothing is kind of similar, kind of like a, you know, a formed, you know, molded to her figure. Maybe not in this one. Okay, the Emperor. All so far. Left facing, Lando. Oh, I'm sorry, I neglected to show this one. Yeah, it's getting too confusing, so I apologize. Orlando, also left facing. The Piedmontese, right facing. The Perrin, left facing, different crown. Interesting. He's got a swan, he's got an eagle, or he's got an eagle, he's got an eagle. He's got like an eagle part embellishment. It's either a real eagle standing there or part of the chair. Eagle on a shield. The Piacentini. And then we have the yeah, I see I have too many here and I'm getting too confused. Now, here we have with the Soprafino. He looks like a more exotic, you know, personage, right? He looks like he's not from... He looks exotic. Okay, I think we're on number 5 for all. Okay, the Vernano. He's got some kind of tulip or something here. The Soprafino. We see that, like maybe a reference to the stigmata. We don't necessarily see it on his gloves here, but he is giving a blessing. As we see in the popes frequently, a blessing, a blessing. I failed to show you the modern day Bruna, but took liberties. Here's the Pope of the Bruna, which is the most modern. But we do see the triple tier crown, which we see generally in every deck. The Perrin and the Piedmontese. So how does it compare to the Soprafino? I noticed too that the Soprafino and the Piedmontese sort of has the Bolognese elongation, right? So it's got that characteristic that I would associate with Bologna. So, I mean, I guess it was the crossroads, Milan, Turin, Bologna, whatever. I mean, kind of interesting. Well, you know, it just goes to show you that there's a lot of cross-pollination. Okay, and I'm neglecting to show this one because I just can't keep up with myself. But this modern day one, I think I'm just going to pass on showing it. Just, you know, along with the others. Do you see some kind of hunch thing going on here or something on his back? We'll pay attention to that when we get to the Hermit. Okay, the Lover. So now here, we're introduced, I think, for the first time since I've been pulling the cards to compare by region. This was the Pope, sorry. Very confusing, isn't it? Kind of a jumble. I think this is the first time in the Italian decks that I have that we see a third party. I'm not sure if I showed it. I'm not sure. I don't remember. So there we have it. Okay, I had to find the Perrin. There's the Perrin. Very interesting, huh? Now let's see. He's blindfolded here, and he's blindfolded in the Soprafino. He's not blindfolded in these others. Well, he is here. He is here in the Perrin. He's blindfolded in the Perrin. It looks like he's blindfolded, but he is peeking through. Either that or it's a hat on his head, and then here there's no blindfold. Very interesting to see the introduction of the three people. I'm not sure if we saw that in the Mickey. I don't think so. Okay, we have the Chariot. And let's compare the Chariot of the Soprafino with the Chariot of the Piedmontese. Kind of hand on hip, staff, a little bit different. Horses have the same head posture. Okay, the Lando, hand on hip, kind of similar. Head posture of the horses the same in all three so far. A little different. We see the scalloped edge in these two, the Soprafino, interestingly, and in the Vernano, we have the scalloped edge. We see it in the Piedmontese of 1865. The Perrin, we don't have it. And I think I already pulled this one, yeah. And in the Lover card of the Piedmontese modern day, no third party. Sorry, I have about the painter's tape. I have enough problems. I don't need to be reported, so I've covered them. They seem to be explicit. And here's the El Carro. So he took complete and different liberties. You know, the horse is going, the chariot's going to the right. Okay, earliest deck, Vernano, Justice. Volando, Justice, very abstract. The Soprafino, the same period of time, much more refined, as the Vernano, much more refined rendition than what was coming out of this, you know, this publishing house of the same, you know, the same period of time. Then we have the 1865. The Perrin, 1865 also. She's got wings, as she did in the Soprafino. So there's some Perrin attention to the Soprafino, perhaps, you know, at least with, you know, maybe I should have been noticing that all along. And then we have the I should be comparing the Soprafino, the Perrin, and the Piedmontese. Well, they identify in these three decks, the Soprafino, the Perrin, and the Piedmontese. They identify justice as a virtue with the wings. In these three, the Vernano, maybe those are wings. I guess so. They look like they could be in the Lando. But here in the Piedmontese of 1865, it kind of more looks like a chairback. So, you know, you can see how, you know, deck publications were influenced, you know. Okay, now I thought I mentioned that we're going to check out if there's something like this on these, because I noticed it on the modern day Modiano, that there was some kind of hunch thing or some kind of backpack or something. So we have the same kind of thing going on in the Vernano. And we see it again in the Lando. So is it like a reference to like a humpback, or is he carrying something on his back? Now here in the Piedmontese of 1865, I just call it the Piedmontese, right? I'm looking for the box. Oh, that's not the right box. The back here, by F.F. Salesio. Okay, so this one was published by Salesio, right? So here, it's part of the cloak, and there's not as much, there's no confusion. He's got like a hunchback, or he's got something underneath his cloak, you know? The Perrin, he really doesn't have anything going on there, nor does he in the Soprafino. So these three are really the ones. Look at that. They all have a type of lantern. The same thing, the same lantern in their hands. Isn't that interesting? Soprafina, 1835. Perrin, 1865. Piedmontese, 1875. So wherever these three came from, they were spot on with each other. And I do believe that the Perrin is from the Piedmont region. So maybe I should just do a video on those three. If you want that and you're still here after 37 minutes, please tell me and I'll do it. Okay, the Wheel of Fortune. Vernano. Soprafino. Quite different. Lando. More similar. These two. Now Piedmontese from Salesio. Who's it similar to? Kind of doing its own thing. The Perrin. Kind of more similar here. They have a lightning bolt in their hand. We have the torches with the flame. We don't have, I don't see a fox over here that we see here. And in the Piedmontese, we have definitely greatly influenced by the Soprafino. So these were the more sophisticated imagery and the more sophisticated, well, Fernando's publication process was sophisticated, that the artwork just, you know, is different. So okay, Fortitude. Fernando, Soprafino, sorry. No, I said it right, Soprafino. Lando. So the floppy hat, the maiden, her face, she looks like she's putting in some effort though. The others, not so much. Perrin. Different hat, Piedmontese. So they all kind of did their own thing, I guess. Similar in that they're the same subject matter represented in a similar way. Okay, I've neglected this one. Yeah, see now in the back for the Bruna, the modern deck, we have a shell, which, you know, which is interesting. It's, you know, maybe slow time. You know, is maybe the shell suggested honesty or something. I forget what it used to suggest. Now here we have a monkey pooping out coins, and here we have quite a different image. So it, you know, took liberties. It's not like based entirely on the Piedmont, because we have a male with an attacking lion that he's not worried about. He's got the lion by the paws, and he's about to flip that lion, even if the lion doesn't know it. Okay. I neglected to show the Lando, I think. Okay. Okay, here we have the Hanged One. Soprafino. A little bit different stylization. Not in the same configuration with the leg hanging or flopping that way. It's flopping down. 1865 Piedmont deck. Let's see how the Perrin and the Piedmontese compare with the Soprafino. Kind of, not exactly the same. Now his leg isn't crossed as exaggerately as it is in these, you know, these others. So I guess we could say it's similarly, you know, that it's not bent like in the traditional Italian fashion. And so here, the Piedmontese and the Soprafino kind of part ways in that because of the way the leg posture is. And in the Bruna, he's like a trapeze artist. Okay, I guess hopefully I'll have this under an hour, but if it isn't, I hope you're interested enough to hang in there. Please let me know if you are. We have Death. We all know Death. Not traditionally named, but you know, sometimes it is, but not always. Usually just identified as the 13th card, in case you missed the skeleton and the scythe. And here we have the Soprafino. The Perrin, more similar, even though they're going in opposite directions, to the Soprafino. But we see the body parts of others. We see that in the Soprafino. We see it in the Perrin. We don't see the body parts, but we see the belongings of a variety of people and different statures, but we don't see them. Here in the 1865 Piedmontese, we do see heads, like we saw it in the Lando. And then here's the Piedmontese. How does it compare with the Perrin and the Soprafino? Well, the Piedmontese, even though if it like is similar to the Soprafino, right? It's more stylized. It does have body parts, body bones. Whereas in the Soprafino and the Perrin, we don't really see body parts. What we see are just the belongings to show us people of different rank, right? But in these others, we have the heads and the body parts. And we see the heads and the body parts in the Bruna. Okay, Temperance. She's got wings. She's a virtue. I think they have not been confused as chairbacks in this deck. I mean, in this particular card, in any deck. The Perrin is a little different, no wings. And the Piedmontese, a stylized version, it seems, of the Soprafino. A little different. The Lando and the Renano have a little red embellishment, a flower, or maybe it denotes something else on her head, her forehead, and we don't see it in the Soprafino. We don't see any kind of headgear on the Perrin. We don't see it in the Soprafino. We don't see it in the Piedmontese of 1865. And we don't even see it in the Piedmontese, although it's the hat is bunched there, but it's not red or anything like that. And what do we have? Huh. I think I got these two. Okay, here we have. And the modern one. Well, she's got a little jewel piece on her head, so maybe. Okay, the devil. Oh my goodness. Okay, so he had to get blacked out. But I think the Piedmontese style will have a head in the belly. I think that's where that came from. I don't know, at some point, you know, this deck got the red treatment, but it does look like there's something underneath, so maybe somebody censored it at some point in history. I don't know. We do have a belly, a face in the belly. Perhaps it is a Piedmontese thing. We don't have it here in the Perrin. And let's see, this Soprafino. Nope, but he's a real hell and brimstone kind of guy. And we don't have it in the, but these two seem to be very similar. I mean, a stylized version of this. We don't see the trident, though, in this hand. We have it here in the Soprafino. I don't see it. But we have the same snake and the same style. We have the man hanging on to his leg. This guy's got wings, but he doesn't have any wings here. And this guy, okay, so we have the Piedmontese tradition of a face in the belly in the real modern deck. Interesting. Okay, moving on. The tower. We're almost there, folks. So we do have a bolt coming from the heavens. Now, remember, when we were looking at the decks I did the other day from Bologna, maybe, or I don't remember. One of them had like the suns on the corners. I don't even remember. See, I see too many decks. But you remember the motif. That maybe it was, I don't know if it was Florentine, if it was Bolognese, but we saw the motif in the corner. And maybe at some point it got mixed up or confused as a sun because it looked like a sun, but there were two. So how could it be a sun? So here we have, something, a bolt coming from the sun. Here we have a bolt coming from a cloud, the Soprafino. We just have the bolt. There's no cloud or sun. We do have people in all three. In the Piedmontese of 1865, we have some type of something happening from the heavens, people falling. In all cases, the crown, and it looks like a crown, the crown of the building, right? Maybe the towers had, crowns at the top in those days. So then we have the Perrin, very similar to the Soprafino. Coming a bolt from the sky, no sun. And then let's see the Piedmontese. Yep, look at that. Very interesting. And then the Modern Day by Bruna. Okay, the star. Vernano's star. Lando's star. Same posture. Here we're not as confused by what's going on in the background, but you know, with the Lando, it becomes more abstract, right? The Piedmontese of 1865, less abstract. But even here, we're not really sure what's going on. It just fools us better. Like here, the bank is up here, and here it's down here. Like what's going on over there? So like there's confusion for sure. Okay, we have the star depicted quite differently. Kind of a little bit more sophisticated in the Perrin. Here we have the star and the soprafino. So they're not identical as they've been, you know, or not that they've been identical, but they've been similar. And here we have more similarity, right? Between the soprafino and the Piacentini. Okay, the moon. Lando, we have familiar ingredients. Remember, this is like 1830. This is 1832. Soprafino, 1835. But this really looks like a specific place. Like this really makes me think that, you know, the image that's been depicted, and I said this in my one of my presentations I think I did for Artisan, and I think I've spoken on it before. And, you know, I want, you know, in my blog and other places, like other videos I may have done, that it really looks like a place. And because the lobster's on a plate, were all these cards, like all these depictions, were they referencing a place that somebody from this period of time would have known, like a famous Eat at Joe's Lobster House kind of thing? We see it in the Perrin too. Very similar. And I'm betting we see the same thing in the Piacentini, and yes, we do. So the lobster on a plate moon card. So these three, whether they're Piedmontese, whether they're Milanese, whether they're Bolognese, I don't know. But they, you know, they seem to be very familiar with each other. And they seem to be, you know, characterized maybe as the Piacentini is in like the crossroads, right? Like right in that, you know, when we, a little bit of this, a little bit of that influence, right? And the star is the same as the others. And here, this moon is quite different. Okay, now we have the sun. Don't say I don't love you guys. I'm going to have a massive job putting them all together here. Okay, but this has been good therapy for me because for the 50 minutes or so I've been doing this, I have been thinking about having all my money stolen. Okay, so we have very similar. Now here I covered it, so this must have been represented as a girl or a woman. So the Vernano, the Lando, oops, somehow I missed this one. Sorry. The moon here, let's see. Yeah, we got the side moon. Let's pay attention to those moons. The side moon. So they're all like TDM2. TDM1, if you want to look at a front-facing moon. Front-facing moon. Interesting. Front-facing moon. But these were side-facing. Okay, the sun. Very similar, right? The soprafino puts a romantic twist on it, as does the Perrin. And the sun is smoking a pipe. Isn't that cool? And the Piacentini. Oh, okay. Very similar here. Doesn't have the flowers on the columns or the whatever that is, the gate or the entrance to the park or whatever. Judgment is number 20 on these cards. These two very similar. The Lando and the Piedmontese of 1865 are very similar. The Soprafino has more of a posture, like the Vernano, right? The hand posture of like, oh, everything down here. The only person is missing in this card is this one right here. The Lando and the Piedmontese. The Perrin, we have the hand gestures of the Soprafino. Everything is very similar, right? And then the Piacentini. Oh, the Perrin. Oh no, I don't. That's the Perrin. The Piacentini. Yep. Does this guy's head come off? No. His head. This is his shoulder. This is his shoulder, although it doesn't look clear. Okay, and now the last card. Thank you for hanging in there if you have. I appreciate it. And they're in the mandala with the back. Now, like these are the backwards C, like veiling, right? Here we have the C. Now, some people say that the C was supposed to be in this direction because it was supposed to say Christ, but who knows? Here's the Soprafino, which is different with the draping. And the Perrins is kind of a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And the Piacentini. Very interesting. Now the Perrin has a globe, and we see a globe in the Vernano, right? We don't see a globe in these others. We don't see a globe in the Soprafino either. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video, friends. I guess it got kind of long. So I'm going to end it here. For any of these videos, that I've done on the regions, if you wanted to see the pips, I'll do it, but nobody's asked, so I'm thinking that you're not as interested in the pips. Thanks for the diversion. Till next time, peace, stay well, be brave and be kind. And for those of you who are members, thank you for being members. Thank you, all of you, for even just subscribing or watching. My next members only chat will be January 25th, Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.